Prologue, ashes in the wind. The battlefield was a graveyard. Charred soil stretched to the horizon, littered with twisted wreckage from machines of war, shattered wing feathers the size of blades, and the silent remains of those who had fought until their last breath. Smoke still clung to the air, carrying the bitter scent of blood and burning oil. Among the smoldering ruins, a figure moved, deliberate, graceful, yet heavy with sorrow. Her skin was the color of polished jade, gleaming faintly beneath the dull sun. Her wings, vast and intricate like the leaves of a sacred tree, folded behind her as she knelt beside a crumpled mass of steel. Lystra, warrior of the Aleri, had survived when so many of her kin had not. She should have been searching for the wounded among her people, but something had drawn her to this armored shape, half buried in the dirt. The soldier was human. His metal plating bore the insignia of the Terran Dominion, the empire that had scorched her world in its hunger for resources. His helmet still flickered faintly with red light, a pulse of power in the circuits woven into his flesh. A cyborg, she thought bitterly, half machine, half man, an instrument of conquest. She should have killed him. Every part of her training told her to thrust her blade through his throat and leave his body to the vultures of the desert. And yet, she did not. Lysera placed a hand upon the cracked plating of his chest. Beneath it, she felt something strange, a tremor, a heartbeat. His visor cracked open with a hiss, revealing a pair of weary, pain-filled eyes beneath. Why? His voice was hoarse, his lips cracked from dust and blood. Why are you helping me? Lysera did not answer. She only stared at him, the weight of centuries of enmity between their peoples, heavy upon her shoulders. She did not know the answer herself. Perhaps it was pity. Perhaps it was something deeper, something she dared not name. The soldier's head slumped forward, his strength ebbing, and in that moment, as the ash swirled between them like falling snow, Lysera made a choice that would change the fate of both their worlds. She would not let him die. Chapter 1. The last enemy, Kale Draven, awoke to silence. Not the silence of peace, but the suffocating stillness that followed slaughter. His ears rang faintly inside his helmet, the aftershock of detonations. His neural implant flashed warnings across the remains of his HUD. Critical damage, systemic failure, catastrophic organ trauma. He tried to move. Pain stabbed through his ribs and spine, and the hydraulics in his right leg hissed like a dying serpent. He slumped back into the dirt, metal grinding against stone. His breathing rasped beneath the helmet. Every inhale a reminder of broken ribs. The war had come to this, a field of ash, and a soldier broken upon it. Then he heard something strange. Wings. Not the mechanical roar of Dominion gunships, nor the buzz of drones. These wings whispered like leaves in a storm. Shadows moved across him. For a moment, Kale thought death itself had come with emerald feathers. A face appeared above him, fierce, alien, luminous in its strangeness. Her jade skin shimmered against the smoke-stained sky. Her eyes burned with intelligence and anger. Yet beneath it lay something he could not name. "You still live," she said. Her voice was low, resonant, carrying an accent unlike any human tongue. Kale tried to speak, but his throat was parched. "You shouldn't care," he rasped. "You should finish me." Her wings rustled, fanning the ash around them. "I should," she admitted. Her hand hovered near the hilt of her blade. Then she drew it back. "But I will not." Kale frowned beneath his cracked visor. "Why?" Her gaze swept across the field. Twisted Dominion mechs, broken Alari spears, blood soaking the soil in rivers both crimson and green. "Because I am tired of war," she whispered. "Tired of death. Tired of being told that killing is the only way to defend what we love." He almost laughed, though it came out a cough. "That makes two of us." Their eyes met then, human soldier and alien warrior, not as enemies, but as survivors, bound by exhaustion. The moment stretched, fragile as glass, and Kale understood that something had shifted. The war had not ended. But for the first time, mercy had found a place among the ashes. Chapter 2: An Uneasy Alliance. When Cale awoke again, he was no longer on the open battlefield. He lay beneath the jagged overhang of a cliff, where stone shielded him from the harsh light of Arender's twin suns. His armor was dismantled in places, torn plating piled nearby like the shed skin of a serpent. His wounds were bound with cloth that shimmered faintly, glowing threads woven with strange Allery herbs. A fire crackled near his feet, fed by fragments of Dominion alloy that burned hot and blue. The smell of smoke mingled with something herbal, sharp yet soothing. And there she was. Lysera sat across from him, her wings folded neatly but still vast, catching the shifting light of the flames. Her spear rested beside her, though her posture was not that of an executioner, but of a sentinel, watchful, wary. "You," Cale croaked, his voice still raw. "You saved me." "I preserved your life," she corrected. "Do not mistake it for kindness. If you slow me down, I will leave you." He almost smiled at her bluntness. "That's fair." For a long moment, neither spoke. The fire popped softly, throwing sparks into the cave's shadows. Cale studied her, the jade hue of her skin, the markings along her arms that glowed faintly like bioluminescence, the tension in her shoulders that spoke of endless battles fought. "You're Allery," he said finally. "And you are Dominion," she replied coldly. "Once," he admitted, turning his gaze away. "Now I'm not sure what I am anymore." Lysera tilted her head, considering him. Machine and man, slave and soldier. "You are all and none." Her words struck him harder than he expected. He looked at his hands, the metal fingers scorched and trembling. Once, they had been flesh. Once, he had been whole. Now, he was something the Dominion had built, useful only for war. "Why help me then?" he pressed. "You hate my kind." She hesitated, her jaw clenched. "I should have left you, but when I looked at you, broken among the wreckage, I saw not a weapon, not a conqueror. I saw someone who bled, someone who suffered, like my own." Cale exhaled slowly. "So pity, then, if you wish to call it that." Another silence fell, this one heavier, not hostile, but uncertain. Two enemies bound by circumstance, neither knowing whether to trust the other. Finally, Cale forced himself upright, grimacing against the pain. "If we're both alive, that means the war hasn't finished us yet, which means we're going to need each other." Lysera's wings twitched, and for the first time, Cale thought he saw the faintest flicker of a smile ghost across her lips. "Perhaps," she said. "But if you betray me, human, I will not hesitate to end you." "Fair," Cale said again, meeting her gaze. "But until then, allies." Her hand lingered near her spear. Then she extended it slowly, deliberately. Cale grasped it with his own metal hand, their grip firm, reluctant, yet undeniable. The war had forged enemies. The ashes had forged something else. An uneasy alliance. ***. Chapter 2: An Uneasy Alliance expanded. The firelight painted their faces in shades of amber and shadow. Cale leaned back against the rock wall, every breath a labor. His mechanical augmentations whirred faintly as they worked to stabilize him, but the systems were badly damaged. He doubted he would survive another battle without proper repair. Lysera watched him without blinking, her eyes sharp, her posture upright like a predator keeping its distance from another wounded beast. Her wings curled inward, creating a half-shell around her body. It was both a shield and a warning. "You were there at the river," she said suddenly, her tone like an accusation. Cale blinked. "The river." "3 moons ago," Lysera continued. Her hand brushed against the markings on her forearm, as if the memory burned in her skin. "Your Dominion launched fire from the skies. Villages turned to ash. Children." Her voice faltered, just for an instant, before hardening again. "I fought there. I saw soldiers in armor like yours. One of them cut down my brother. Kale lowered his gaze. He did not ask whether she believed it was him. In truth, it might have been. The Dominion had sent countless divisions, and his unit had fought in that campaign. He remembered the river, though for him, the memory was one of orders, coordinates, and endless flames. He had not looked at the faces of those they destroyed. He had not dared. "I don't know if it was me," he said quietly, "but if it was, I can't undo it. I can only say, I didn't choose this." Lysera's jaw tightened. "Do you expect forgiveness?" "No." His voice was hoarse but steady. "I don't forgive myself." The crackle of the fire filled the silence that followed. Lysera's eyes studied him, searching, weighing, trying to see if his words carried truth or deceit. Finally, she looked away, her wings shifting restlessly. "You humans always speak of orders, as though duty washes away the blood you spill." Kale closed his eyes. "Orders kept me alive, but they also made me a monster." She tilted her head at that, faint surprise flickering across her features. Few Dominion soldiers spoke with such rawness, most hewed to discipline, arrogance, the belief that conquest was destiny. This one, Kale Dravan, sounded like a man hollowed out by regret. Perhaps that was why she had spared him. "You say you need me," Lysera said at last. "Why?" Kale forced himself upright again, his body screaming in protest. "Because the Dominion doesn't leave survivors. When they sweep this field tomorrow, they'll kill anything that moves. You may think you can fight them all, but you won't last alone. And me." He gestured to his broken frame. "I can't survive without cover. Together, maybe we have a chance." Her wings rustled, uneasy. She hated the logic, because it was true. "And if I carry you with me," she asked, "what happens when we meet others of your kind? Will you betray me to them?" Kale met her gaze with steady eyes. "If I wanted you dead, you wouldn't have woken up beside a fire. You'd have woken up with a blade in your back." Her lips curved, not in a smile, but something like acknowledgement. She inclined her head slightly. "Then we walk the same path. For now. For now." The words hung between them, fragile as glass. Kale leaned back, exhaustion overtaking him. Once more. Lysera kept watch through the night, her spear across her knees, eyes fixed on the horizon, an uneasy alliance. Fragile as ash on the wind. Chapter 3. The march through ruined dawn broke over the battlefield in pale hues of gold and gray. The smoke had thinned, but the land bore scars that no sunrise could heal. Craters pocked the earth. The corpses of soldiers and war beasts lay scattered, their armor gleaming dully under the twin suns. Vultures circled high, their shrieks echoing in the emptiness. Kale staggered to his feet, leaning heavily on a makeshift crutch Lysera had fashioned from broken alloy. His leg augments sparked faintly with each step. "You're slower than I hoped," Lysera muttered, scanning the horizon. Her wings stretched wide before folding again, restless. "You could have left me," Kale replied through clenched teeth. "I still might," she shot back, though her pace slowed enough for him to follow. They moved cautiously through the ruins. Kale's visor patched with crude repairs, flickered warnings of heat signatures. Drones. The Dominion's scavenger machines, designed to eliminate stragglers. "Trouble ahead," Kale murmured. Lysera's spear hummed softly as she charged, it with a strange bioluminescent energy. "Then we clear the path." The first drone swooped low, a spindly machine with blades for wings and a sensor eye glowing red. Lysera's spear sliced it clean in two with a single upward strike, her wings propelling her in a blur of motion. Kale raised his rifle, salvaged from his ruined armor, and fired short bursts at the next wave. His aim was steady, precise, despite the pain lacing his body. One drone fell, smoking to the dirt. Another spiraled into a crater. For a moment, they fought as though they had trained together all their lives. Her speed and grace wove between his calculated fire, their movements complementing each other in deadly rhythm. When the last drone crashed into the rocks, silence returned. Lysera glanced at Kale, her chest rising and falling with exertion. "You fight well. For a machine," she said. "And you?" "For an angel," he replied, before he could stop himself. Her eyes narrowed, uncertain whether it was insult or praise. She chose not to answer, turning away with a flick of her wings. They pressed onward, deeper into the wasteland. The war had taken much, but ahead lay greater trials still, and with every step, their uneasy alliance hardened, forged not of trust but of necessity. Yet within that necessity, something fragile and unspoken began to grow. Chapter 4. Shadows. Of the past the wasteland stretched for leagues, each step dragging Kale deeper into exhaustion. His mechanical leg groaned with every movement, the servos grinding as though sand had filled their gears. Sweat slicked his brow, mixing with ash. Lysera moved ahead of him, tireless. Her wings cast long shadows across the ground, the patterns of feathers shifting like ripples on water. To Kale, she looked like something pulled from a half-remembered dream, not a comrade, not an enemy, but a myth given form. "Keep moving," she said without turning. "We must reach the ridge before nightfall. The carrion beasts come after sunset." Kale forced his body forward. "Beasts? I thought drones were our worst problem." She glanced back, eyes narrowing. "Drones are predictable. Beasts are not." As if summoned by her words, a howl cut through the barren air. It was low, resonant, and carried the weight of hunger. Kale stiffened, his rifle clutched tighter. "Stay close," Lysera ordered. They quickened their pace. The terrain shifted, jagged rocks jutting upward like broken teeth. The shadows deepened, swallowing the battlefield behind them. Kale's visor flickered, struggling to track movement. "Something's following." "I know," Lysera whispered. Her wings half unfurled. The first beast emerged from the rocks, a hulking creature with 6 limbs. Its skin mottled in patterns that mimicked stone. Its eyes glowed faintly yellow, and its jaws split wider than any natural predator Kale had ever seen. 2 more followed. Kale raised his rifle. "Tell me you've fought these before." "Too many times," Lysera said grimly. She spun her spear, the markings on her arms glowing brighter, as if answering the threat. The beasts lunged. Lysera moved first, her wings launching her into the air with a burst of wind. Her spear sliced across the nearest beast's flank, sending blood spraying in arcs of greenish black. Kale fired at the second, his shots precise but barely slowing its advance. The third beast barreled toward him. Kale braced, but his injured leg buckled. In an instant, Lysera swooped low, catching the creature's head with a savage strike that sent it sprawling. "Move," she barked. Together, they fought side by side. Kale's rifle thundered, Lysera's spear sang, and their enemies fell, one by one. When the last beast collapsed, twitching in the dust, the silence that followed was deafening. Kale sank to one knee, gasping for breath. "You weren't kidding." Lysera wiped her blade clean, her chest heaving. She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "You fought well, for someone half dead." Kale managed a wry smile. "And you fight like a storm." This time, her lips twitched, not quite a smile, but close, as the suns dipped low. Painting the wasteland in hues of crimson and violet, they pressed on. The ridge loomed ahead, its cliffs jagged and dark against the fading light. Beyond it lay unknown dangers, but also the faint promise of survival, and for the first time, Kale felt a strange certainty. They were no longer just survivors bound by necessity. Something deeper had begun to tether them, fragile, dangerous, but real, but real. Chapter 5. The Ridge of Ghosts. The ridge loomed like the spine of a dead giant, its jagged edges reaching toward the sky. Shadows stretched across the rocks, and the wind carried a mournful whistle as it passed through crevices carved by centuries of storms. By the time Lysera and Kale reached its base, Night had nearly fallen. The twin suns sank low, casting their dying light in hues of crimson and violet that bled together like wounds in the sky. "We'll rest here," Lysera said, her voice steady, though her wings drooped with exhaustion. Cale nodded, too tired to argue. His body was a patchwork of pain, broken bones bound by alien cloth, circuitry in his augmentations sparking with every step. He leaned heavily against the rock face, sliding down until he sat in the dirt. For a time, they said nothing. The world around them seemed to hold its breath. No drones, no beasts, only the wind and the eerie silence of a land that had known too much death. It was Cale who broke the quiet. "This place feels wrong." Lysera's gaze lingered on the ridge above, her expression somber. "Because it is. This is not just a ridge, it is a grave." Cale frowned. "What do you mean?" She turned toward him, the firelight reflecting in her eyes. "Long before your dominion came, my people fought our own war here, Allery against Allery, clans torn apart by pride and vengeance. Thousands died on these stones. Their bones still lie within the cliffs." Her wings rustled uneasily, as though the memory of that ancient war unsettled even her. "We call it the Ridge of Ghosts," she continued. "Our elders warned us never to linger here after dark. They said the spirits of the fallen whisper to the living, drawing them into madness." Cale gave a weak chuckle. "Spirits? My people don't believe in ghosts." "Then your people are blind," Lysera said sharply. The firmness of her tone silenced him. He studied her face, the faint glow of her markings, the way her eyes flickered toward the shadows, as if expecting to see something emerge. Whether or not he believed in ghosts, he could not deny the heaviness of the air. The ridge pressed down upon him like a weight, and for the first time in years, he felt something close to fear that was not born of battle. As darkness deepened, Lysera lit another fire, its glow dancing against the rock walls. She sat opposite Cale, her spear across her knees, her gaze distant. Cale shifted uncomfortably. "You lost family here, didn't you?" Her head snapped toward him, eyes narrowing. "How do you know?" "I can see it in your eyes," he said quietly. "The way you look at this place, like it's more than history." Lysera's jaw tightened. She looked away, wings curling closer to her body. "My mother's clan fell here. She was only a child when it happened. She survived by hiding among the dead." Cale swallowed hard, the weight of her words sinking into him. "And still, you fight again. Another war. Another ridge of bones." "Yes." Her voice trembled, just slightly. "But this time, the war is not of our making. It is yours." Cale had no answer. His chest tightened with guilt, though it was guilt he had carried long before he met her. The silence stretched, but it was not empty. It was filled with the unspoken truths of two survivors bound by pain. Finally, Cale spoke again, his voice low. "When I was young, before the implants, before the Dominion stripped me down and rebuilt me, I lived by the sea." Lysera's eyes flicked back to him, surprised by the softness in his tone. "There was a cliff," Cale continued. "I'd sit there for hours, watching the waves crash below. I thought, maybe I'd be a fisherman, or a cartographer, anything but a soldier. But then the draft came, and the Dominion doesn't ask. They take." He flexed his mechanical hand, the metal fingers glinting in the firelight. "This is what they made me into. A weapon. A thing that follows orders. And when you're made into a weapon, it's hard to remember you were ever human at all." Lysera studied him in silence, her expression unreadable. For once, she did not speak with anger or accusation, only thought. "You still bleed," she said finally. "You still remember the sea. That is enough to make you more than a weapon." Cale looked at her, startled. Of all the things she could have said, he had not expected that. The fire crackled between them, casting its light across their faces. For the first time since their uneasy alliance began, Kale felt something fragile stir within him. Not trust, not yet, but the faintest spark of hope. Above them, the wind whispered through the ridge, carrying echoes that might have been nothing more than air, or might have been voices of the dead. Neither of them slept easily that night. Chapter 6. Fire at dawn. The first light of morning spilled across the ridge like molten gold, illuminating jagged stones, still wet with dew. Kale stirred awake. Though awake felt generous. His body had never truly rested. Pain pulsed through his ribs, his legs stiff from malfunctioning hydraulics. Lysera was already standing at the ridge's edge, her silhouette outlined by the rising suns. Her wings spread slightly as she scanned the wasteland below. Movement, she said without turning. Kale forced himself upright, his visor flickering to life. The feed stuttered, but through the static, he saw them. Dominion patrols. 3 armored transports crawling across the broken plain, their engines leaving trails of dust. Accompanying them were squads of drones, hovering in tight formation like carrion birds. Kale's stomach tightened. Sweepers. They're here to clear the field. Lysera's grip tightened on her spear. Then they will find us. Kale hobbled to her side, his breath harsh. Listen, you can't fight them head on, not this many. Her eyes flicked to him, sharp and unyielding. Do you suggest we flee? He hesitated. The Dominion always left no survivors, but the thought of hiding felt like cowardice. Yet one look at his failing systems told him the truth. He couldn't fight at full strength. Not anymore. We don't run, Kale said finally. We make them believe we're already dead. Use the ridge, the terrain, the wreckage. Draw them in, break them apart. Lysera studied him for a long moment, then gave a curt nod. Then, we hunt. They worked quickly. Lysera gathered stones and bones from the ridge, arranging them into crude decoys. Kale adjusted his visor to feed false heat signatures into the Dominion scanners. Every move cost him strength, but adrenaline dulled the pain. By the time the patrol reached the base of the ridge, the trap was set. Kale crouched behind a slab of stone, rifle braced against his shoulder. Lysera perched above him, wings folded, tight, her spear crackling faintly with bioluminescent energy. The first transport rolled closer, its treads grinding over broken bones. A squad of Dominion soldiers disembarked, armored figures, faceless beneath their visors. Kale felt his throat tighten. He recognized the insignia on their his own unit's colors, the men he might have once called brothers. Lysera's voice brushed his mind, not spoken, but felt. A low whisper carried on the strange resonance of her kind. Do you falter? Kale's finger hovered over the trigger. They were my unit, he admitted. But that was before they turned me into this. Lysera's gaze never wavered. Then prove you are no longer theirs. The first shot cracked through the morning air. A soldier dropped instantly, visor shattered. The squad erupted into chaos. Lysera leaped from her perch, wings unfurling with a thunderous snap. She descended like a storm, her spear lancing through one soldier's chest before spinning to strike another. Her movements were poetry edged in violence, each strike fluid and precise. Kale provided cover, his rifle barking controlled bursts. He struck down drones before they could flank her, his mechanical eye compensating for the haze of smoke and dust. The ridge became a crucible of fire and blood. Soldiers fell, their shouts echoing against the stone. Drones screamed as they crashed into the rocks, but the Dominion was relentless. The second transport deployed reinforcements, heavier units, their armor plated thick, weapons glowing with plasma charge. Kale cursed under his breath. Fall back, he shouted. Lysera ignored him, wings sweeping wide as she vaulted into their midst. Plasma fire scorched the stones where she had stood moments before. Kale's chest tightened. He had seen entire squads obliterated by those weapons. Without thinking, he surged forward, his failing leg barely holding. He fired shot after shot, drawing the soldiers' focus. One plasma round seared past him, catching his shoulder. The impact threw him against the rock wall, pain exploding as circuitry sparked beneath his skin. Kale, Lysera's cry split the chaos. Through the haze, he saw her wings flare in fury. She moved with a speed beyond human sight, her spear glowing brighter, every strike a blur of light and steel. Soldiers fell screaming, drones shattered. For a moment, she was not just a warrior, she was wrath incarnate. When the dust cleared, silence fell once more. The remaining Dominion survivors retreated to their transports, engines roaring as they pulled away. The ridge stank of blood and scorched stone. Kale lay slumped against the rock, his vision flickering. His systems screamed, with error codes, but he was alive. Lysera landed beside him, her wings folding slowly. Her chest heaved with exhaustion, sweat glistening against her jade skin. She crouched, her eyes searching his face. "You are wounded." Kale coughed, a grim smile tugging at his lips. "That's nothing new." She pressed a hand to his chest, her touch firm but careful. "You risked yourself." "Why?" He met her gaze, the words rasping from his throat. "Because I'm done watching people die for me. Done being the weapon they built. If I fall, I fall fighting beside someone who actually believes in something." Lysera's eyes softened, just for an instant. Chapter 7. The Betrayer's Truth. The sun was sinking again by the time they left the ridge of ghosts behind. The sky bled with streaks of red and gold, and the air grew heavier with every step. Kale leaned on his makeshift crutch, his augmentations sparking faintly with each stumble. Lysera walked ahead, wings folded tight, her gaze scanning the horizon with relentless vigilance. She had barely spoken since the battle. Kale couldn't tell if it was focus, anger, or something she was unwilling to share. They followed a narrow path through a ravine where the rocks rose high on either side. Kale's visor picked up faint signals in the distance, weak echoes on the Dominion frequency. He frowned, adjusting the settings. Lysera noticed. "What do you hear?" "Comes chatter," Kale muttered. "Encrypted. Dominion." Her jaw tightened. "They hunt us." "No," Kale said slowly. "This isn't a sweep. It's different. It's coming from deeper inside. Arender. A command relay. Maybe." Lysera stopped, her spear tip scraping the ground. "Speak plainly, human." Kale hesitated, then sighed. "They're not just here to conquer your world. They're looking for something." Her eyes narrowed. "What?" He shook his head. "I don't know. They don't tell soldiers the why, only the where. But there were whispers, rumors in the barracks. They said Arender wasn't just another resource planet, that there's technology here, ancient. Something older than either of our peoples." Lysera's grip on her spear tightened. "Lies. Maybe," Kale admitted. "But the Dominion doesn't bleed this much for lies. They wouldn't throw fleets, soldiers, machines, into the fire, unless there was something worth burning for." The ravines seemed to darken around them. Lysera's wings trembled faintly, though her face remained hard. "There are ruins," she said after a long silence. "Places our elders guard but never enter. They say the gods themselves left their relics, buried in the deep places of the world. Forbidden places." Kale's heart quickened. If that's true, that's what the Dominion is after. Lysera turned sharply, her spear leveled at his chest. Her eyes blazed with sudden fury. "Did they send you to find it?" she demanded. "Is that why you live, while so many of mine are ash? Are you their spy even now?" Kale froze, staring down the shimmering blade. The accusation cut deeper than steel. "No," he said firmly. "I didn't ask for this war. I didn't choose to be part of it. The Dominion used me, Lysera, just as they're using thousands more. But if you think I'd betray you—" He stepped forward, pressing his chest to the spear point, despite the danger. "Then strike me now." Lysera's grip faltered, just slightly. The fire in her eyes wavered, tempered by something she didn't want to name. For a heartbeat, the world held still. The wind died. The silence was absolute. Then she pulled her spear back, her wings shuddering, as though with the weight of her own doubt. "No," she whispered. "Not yet." Kale exhaled slowly, relief mixing with weariness. "Then believe me when I say this. If the Dominion finds whatever they're looking for, it won't just be your world that burns. It'll be mine too, and every world after." Lysera looked away, her jaw clenched. She wanted to reject his words, to cling to her hatred and grief. But deep inside, she knew the Dominion's hunger had no limits. The ravine opened into a plateau, where the stars stretched above in cold brilliance. For a long time, they stood in silence, staring at the heavens, two survivors beneath the same sky, bound by secrets that neither fully understood. At last, Kale spoke again, his voice softer. "What did you call this place?" "The Ridge of Ghosts." "Yes," Lysera said. "Then I think the ghosts aren't done with us yet," he murmured, and in the starlight, he swore he could almost hear them whisper. Chapter 8, Shadows of the Past. The night was sharp and cold. The plateau stretched wide, a scarred plain where no trees grew, no streams ran, only jagged stones and the whisper of winds that smelled faintly of metal and dust. Kale's systems hummed faintly as he adjusted the damaged plating over his shoulder. Sparks still flickered where plasma had burned deep into the circuitry beneath. Every breath rattled like gravel in his chest. Lysera had lit a small fire, its glow reflecting off her jade skin. She sat with her spear laid across her knees, wings folded tight, her eyes fixed on the flames. She had said little since lowering her blade from his chest. Kale studied her from across the fire. The silence between them had become its own weight, heavier than the Dominion's armor, heavier than the wounds that marked their bodies. Finally, he broke it. "You didn't kill me." Her gaze did not leave the flames. "Not yet." "Why?" Lysera's jaw clenched. For a moment, he thought, she would ignore him again, but then she whispered, "Because the truth burns louder than my hatred, and I fear that truth." Kale leaned closer, the firelight catching the shadows across his scarred face. "What truth?" "That my people may have hidden more from us than they ever admitted." Her wings shifted restlessly, feathers rustling. "The Dominion searches for something in the ruins. Perhaps they should never have known of those ruins at all. Perhaps," her voice faltered, "perhaps we should never have existed so near. Their secrets." Kale frowned. "You think your elders knew?" Lysera's silence was answer enough. A cold unease spread through him. If the Dominion's war was not about conquest but recovery, then someone had already betrayed Arender, long before the first shot was fired. Before he could speak again, his visor chirped faintly, a signal, weak, distorted, but familiar. Kale froze. His throat went dry. Lysera noticed immediately. "What is it?" He hesitated. The voice crackled through his gums, distorted by static, but still unmistakable. "Draven Kale, Draven report." His blood ran cold. It was Commander Wren, his superior, the man who had overseen Kale's cybernetic enhancements, the one who had told him again and again that pain was strength, that loyalty was survival. Kale ripped the earpiece from his visor, but Lysera's eyes had already narrowed. "Who was that?" she demanded. "No one," Kale lied quickly. Too quickly. Lysera rose, wings flaring, her voice edged with fury. "Do not lie to me." Kale clenched his fists, the memory of Wren's voice gnawing at his mind. He wanted to tell her, to confess, everything but the fear of what she might do, of how fragile her trust already was. Kept him silent. "I cut the feed," he said at last. "Whoever it was, they won't track us. Not this time." Her stare bored into him, searching for cracks. Then she sat again, but her wings did not fold. They remained spread, sharp as blades. "Sleep lightly, Kale Draven," she murmured, "for if you betray me, your gods will not find your body among the stars." He did not sleep. Instead, Kale stared into the fire until it burned low, his mind a storm of memory. He saw the cold steel of the Dominion's laboratories. He smelled the antiseptic sting of the operating tables. He remembered Rin's voice whispering promises of power, of glory, of duty, and he remembered the pain, endless, unrelenting pain, as metal fused with bone, as circuits rewrote the flesh he once called his own. He clenched his jaw. He was not theirs anymore. He had bled for them, killed for them, sacrificed every part of himself for them, and for what? To become a shadow of a man, to burn worlds that were never his enemy. No, whatever the Dominion wanted on Arendar, they would not have it. Not if he had anything left to give. At dawn, Lysera roused him. Her eyes were tired, her stance taut. We must move. They descended the plateau into a valley where the stones glimmered faintly with veins of crystal. The ground felt alive beneath their feet, humming with a low resonance that seemed to echo in Kale's chest. "This is one of the forbidden places," Lysera whispered. "My people call it the Valley of Singing Stone. Few dare enter." Kale's visor flickered with interference. His HUD scrambled, unable to process the energy that radiated from the crystalline veins. He swore under his breath. This is it," he said. "This is what they're after." Lysera's hand tightened on her spear. "Then we must find it first." Kale nodded grimly. But as they pressed deeper into the valley, one truth lingered in his mind like a shadow. The Dominion was already coming, and Rin would not stop until he had his prize, or Kale's head. Chapter 9. The Valley of Singing Stone. The valley pulsed with a living hum, the crystalline veins in the rock glowing brighter as Lysera and Kale descended into its heart. The air was heavy, thick with static, as though the very world held its breath. Kale's systems struggled to adjust. His HUD flickered in and out, sensors blinded by the strange resonance. Each step was like walking into the belly of a storm. Lysera's feathers quivered, her wings absorbing the energy. "This place is older than memory," she whispered. "Even our elders speak of it only in hushed tones." Kale scanned the crystalline walls. "Then this is what the Dominion's after. Power like this. It could fuel fleets for centuries, or build weapons that make entire planets kneel." A sound cut through the valley, mechanical, precise, merciless. Kale's blood went cold. From the far cliffs descended a wave of Dominion drones, their wings of steel unfolding as they swarmed like locusts. Behind them came soldiers, armored, in black and silver, rifles glowing with plasma, and at their head, standing tall, in exo-armor trimmed with crimson, was Commander Rin. Kale's chest clenched. He had known this moment was coming. "Draven," Rin's amplified voice thundered across the valley. "You've run far enough. You've forgotten what you are, what we made you. But you'll remember. Kneel now, and your suffering ends. Defy me, and I'll scatter what's left of your flesh across this cursed ground." Lysera stepped in front of Kale, wings flaring wide, spear raised like a banner of defiance. Her voice rang out, clear and sharp. "This world will not bow to you, and neither will he." Rin's laughter was cold. "Then you'll both die together." The drones surged. Lysera launched upward, wings slicing the air with a sonic crack. She was a blur of jade and steel, her spear carving arcs of light as she tore through the first wave. Feathers glimmered as they fell, slicing through metal like blades. Kale planted his feet, rifle roaring. Plasma rounds tore into drones, his augmented reflexes pushing beyond exhaustion. Sparks lit the valley, the crystalline walls glowing brighter with every impact, as though feeding on the violence. The Dominion soldiers advanced in formation, but Lysera's fury broke them apart. She landed among them like a storm given flesh, her spear cleaving, her wings battering, her voice a cry of war. Kale fought at her side, each shot precise, each movement driven by more than survival. This wasn't just a battle, it was a refusal, a final stand against the chains that had bound them both. But then Rin entered the fray. His X-armor crackled with energy, each step shaking the stone beneath. He carried a blade of pure plasma, its heat warping the air. "Draven," he roared, charging. Kale met him head-on. Their blades clashed, sparks erupting, the resonance of the valley screaming with each strike. Rin's strength was overwhelming, his armor feeding on the valley's energy. "You are mine," Rin snarled, forcing Kale to his knees. "I forged you. Every scar, every scream, I put them there. You are nothing without me." Kale's vision blurred, pain burning through his body. He could hear the Dominion soldiers rallying, the drones swarming, Lysera's voice crying his name, and then, deep inside the valley, the crystals answered. A surge of light erupted from the ground, flowing into Lysera's wings, into Kale's failing systems. For one brief instant, they were connected, warrior and soldier, jade and steel, bound not by war but by the pulse of the world itself. Kale rose, strength flooding back, his rifle glowing with power not his own. Lysera's spear burned like a star, her wings unfurling in radiant fire. Together, they struck. Kale's blade cut through Rin's plasma sword, cleaving it in two. Lysera's spear pierced his chest, the energy surging through her weapon, shattering the exo-armor from within. Rin's scream echoed across the valley, swallowed by the hum of the singing stone. His body collapsed, armor smoking, his voice silenced at last. The drones faltered, the soldiers broke. Without their commander, the Dominion force scattered, fleeing into the shadows. Silence fell. Kale dropped to one knee, gasping, his systems sparking faintly. Lysera stood beside him, wings still glowing, her face pale with exhaustion. "It is done," she whispered. Kale looked up at her, his voice hoarse but steady. "No, it's only begun. The Dominion won't stop. They'll send more." Her gaze met his, fierce and unyielding. "Then we'll be ready." Epilogue. Wings of Ashes. The valley lay quiet once more, its crystals dimming as the resonance faded. The singing stone had given them its strength, but at a cost. Both of them bore its mark now, etched into their skin, into their very bones. Lysera stood at the cliff's edge, wings spread, the dawn casting her in gold. Kale limped beside her, battered but alive, his cybernetics humming faintly with new energy. They looked out across the horizon, where the wreckage of drones smoldered and the stars still shone beyond. "We are not allies of convenience anymore," Lysera said softly. "We are bound by this valley, by this battle, by choice." Kale nodded. For the first time in years, he felt something close to peace. "Then let's make that choice mean something." Together, jade wings and steel limbs, they turned toward the war yet to come. The Dominion would rise again, but so would they. And their names, whispered in fire and stone, in blood and starlight, would echo across eternity. Epilogue. Wings of Ashes. The valley was still at last. The crystals that had once sung with battle now glimmered faintly, as though weary from what they had witnessed. Smoke rose in lazy spirals from the broken husks of Dominion machines, curling upward into a sky painted with the pale light of dawn. Stood at the cliff's edge, her wings unfurled, jade feathers catching the first breath of morning. She was bruised, scarred, weary, but unbroken. The wind whispered through her feathers, carrying with it the voices of her fallen kin, and she let her heart listen to them one last time. Kale limped to her side, every step a reminder of his wounds, both flesh and machine. His cybernetics hummed, softly, fragile, yet alive. For the first time in years, he felt more man than weapon. He looked at Lysera, and in her he saw not the enemy he had once been told to destroy, but the only truth he still believed in, that mercy could be stronger than hate, and that love could grow, even from ashes. They stood together in silence as the sun rose, light spilling across the shattered valley. We are bound now, Lysera said softly, her voice carrying the weight of a vow. By the song of this stone, by the blood we spilled, by the choice we made. Kale's eyes closed briefly, as if sealing her words into his soul. Then let it be more than survival. Let it be a promise. No matter what comes, no matter what the Dominion sends, we stand together. Lysera turned her face to him, and for a moment, the war, the scars, the ruins, all of it fell away. In its place was only the fragile, fierce truth of two souls, who had chosen each other against the tide of destiny. She reached out, laying her hand against the cold steel of his chest. Beneath it, she felt the heartbeat that no machine could silence. And Kale, lifting his scarred hand, brushed his fingers across her wing, the jade feathers warm beneath his touch. The valley seemed to breathe with them, its song quiet now, but enduring. Above, the stars still lingered against the brightening sky. Ashes of the night giving way to light. Two figures stood upon the edge of a broken world, a warrior of jade and a soldier of steel, neither wholly human nor wholly alien anymore. Together, they had been remade in fire and mercy. Whatever battles lay ahead, whatever shadows the Dominion cast, their names would endure. Lysera of the wings, Kale of the broken steel, bound not by war, but by love that refused to die. And their story, born of ashes and sung in the stones of the earth, would echo across eternity.